I'm Russ Jaffe and have the privilege of presenting to you this evening. I'm a medical doctor, first an internist, then a clinical pathologist. I'm a biochemist. I'm a certified clinical nutritionist. I'm a fellow of the National Academy for Clinical Biochemistry and an overseas fellow of the Royal Society of Medicine. I maintain fellow status as a clinical pathologist in the American Society for Clinical Pathology, as a nutritionist in the American College of Nutrition. I'm a scientific fellow of the American College of Allergy, Asthma, and Immunology, and I'm a fellow of the American Medical Laboratory Immunologists. I'm also a fellow of the Health Studies Collegium Foundation, and I am director of PERQUE and ELISA Act Biotechnologies. Well, in this four-part webinar series, we looked previously at urine, first morning pH and specific gravity measurement. In this section, we will focus mostly on stool transit time and digestive analysis and how they relate to the other pieces. In part 3, we'll look at hydration and stress hormones, and in part 4, we'll look at the physical evidence of vitamin needs and evidence-based confirmatory tests. We do archive the podcast for your benefit. You're welcome to go to the website www.perquecast.asp. That's podcasts.asp. And we would appreciate any feedback you can give us about how useful you find those podcast archived presentations. Well, the Alkaline Way has many benefits. The Alkaline Way benefits mostly have to do with proactive repair. The Alkaline Way benefits of proactive repair derive from richness in antioxidants. The colorful foods you see in that picture are colorful because of the antioxidants that keep those delicate molecules at just the right frequency or just the right calibration to appear as the color that they are. And they are all, every one of them, antioxidants, anti-inflammatory, which means pro-repair, and they stop oxidative stress. So the Alkaline Way has lots of benefits. It enriches our diet in antioxidants, it is pro-repair and therefore anti-inflammatory, and it helps stop oxidative stress. Now, looking at the digestive system from this perspective, we want a digestive system that can turn food into energy. We want a digestive system where what you eat can be assimilated, utilized, and eliminated efficiently. And by measuring transit time, you can see where a person is in regard to overall or global measures of assimilation, utilization, and elimination. In the upper right of this slide, you see the cover of a book called Soil and Your Health. The subtitle is that healthy soil is vital to your health. And this is by Beatrice Hunter. I would recommend this and any of the things that she's written as high in communication value, but also high in technical accuracy. And as you see in the lower right of the slide, the digestive system can be diagrammed, starting, of course, above what we see with the eyes, which is the first step in telling the brain and the body what we will be eating, and then the mouth, which samples and through the oral mucosa gets some indications of what the quality and kind of the food is and sends that information to the gut nervous system. Then we swallow the food through the esophagus into the stomach. There it should be acidified if we have a healthy amount of stomach acid, and that acidified content called chyme is delivered to the first portion of the duodenum, or first portion of the small intestine called the duodenum, and that's what wraps around the pancreas very wisely, because when the acid chyme meets this part of the duodenum, it sets off sense signals that tell the pancreas to release lots of bicarbonate and the digestive enzymes that are in there. So the best way to boost digestive enzymes is to have a healthy stomach producing healthy acid and acidifying the chyme as it comes out of the stomach into the duodenum. The pancreas produces and delivers the digestive enzymes where they're needed, which is in the small intestine and below, and not above in the stomach. There are two more parts of the small intestine. There are many specialized areas in the small intestine for uptake of nutrients. And then at the lower left, you see the ileocecal valve, where the small and large intestines meet. The appendix is there. And back in the dark ages when I was trained, We were told that the appendix was vestigial, it was no longer needed, it was just inert and there, present from history, but didn't have any functional value. The same was said of the Peyer's patches that are the immune system lining along the digestive tract. Today, with more sophisticated science, we know that these are active, these are necessary for healthy digestion, and we've learned that our ignorance is not a reason to ignore physiology. The large intestine is where the food is then compacted and electrolytes reabsorbed, hopefully without reabsorbing toxins. The last portion is the rectum, which is embryologically derived from the kidneys, and that's the part that we'll be talking about when we talk about the ascorbate calibration, how that actually works. And from the rectum we eliminate, hopefully quickly, the food without time for toxic matter to be reabsorbed. Again, back in the Dark Ages when I was trained, we were already informed that there was an epidemic of epidemics. There was a digestive epidemic, but it was silent and underneath the other chronic degenerative autoimmune disease epidemics that we know of in this country. So common complaints like heartburn, abdominal pain, gas, bloating, constipation, diarrhea. Common disorders and conditions like IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, diverticulitis or diverticulosis. Diverticulosis is the benign outpouching of the intestine. Diverticulitis is when it becomes inflamed and uncomfortable. Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, enteropathy, atrophy of the digestive tract, maldigestion and dysbiosis. All of these have digestive components, and silent digestive disorders underlie most chronic and degenerative autoimmune illness. So if we address digestion competently and maintain or restore or enhance it, we're able to provide a resilience or reserve factor so that we're not hospitable to what goes around or to a declining quality of health and life. Now, the Alkaline Way has protective personal plans. These include the transit time that we'll talk about tonight. These include the first AM urine pH measurement for metabolic acidosis, the one we talked about in the previous webinar. This includes the ascorbate calibration, the antioxidant need calibration. We'll review that later in this webinar. And digestive stool analysis, if and as needed, to confirm what the transit time, first AM urine pH, and ascorbate calibration may have suggested. Now, what is transit time? It is the time of transit. It is the time from eating to eliminating. So it's the time from consumption to removal from the body. And in terms of gastrointestinal transit time, while the average American had a 36 to 96 plus hour transit time some years ago, it's now up to an average of 72 to 144 plus hours for gastrointestinal transit. That is, what we eat today may not come out until next week in some cases. That allows for toxin reabsorption. For example, putrescine and cadaverine form in the large intestine when you have a long transit time, and certain bile acids and toxic matter are worked on by the microflora. It's a drain on the body. It's a drain on metabolism. It's why some people feel so sluggish. It is an indication of chronic gastrointestinal or, more importantly, systemic illness. So transit time is really very important. Healthy is 12 to 18 hours, and if it's less than 10 hours, that suggests a short transit or a short bowel where malnutrition and malabsorption can occur. So the healthy transit time is 12 to 18 hours. This means that what you eat at dinner should be coming out the next breakfast. If it's too short or too long, that's a problem. And for literally a few pennies, you and your clients can determine what the transit time is, and hopefully it'll be in the healthy 12 to 18 hour range. We do have a write-up. This is available online. Our suggestion for transit time digestion evaluation uses activated charcoal, typically 6 to 12 capsules, which represents 1.5 to 3 grams of charcoal, plus 8 ounces of water. Take it between meals and mark the time. And when the black or brown crumbly stuff comes out, the tush, mark the time, and the difference is your transit time. This, as I said, is available online, and you're welcome to access it there. Some people like specific dosing, and so, for example, if a person weighs less than 150 pounds, typically 6 capsules is enough. You want enough charcoal to be able to see it. You don't need more than is necessary to be able to see the black or brown crumbly stuff come out of the tush. If people weigh 150 to 200 pounds, we recommend 8 capsules. 200 to 250 pounds, 10 capsules. More than 250 pounds, 12 capsules. So that if you want to tailor it to weight of the individual, it would be between 6 and 12 capsules for adults. If you have, say, a person of 75 pounds, that would be 3 capsules, and you can scale it down if you're working with children. Now we have a transit time action plan. And the transit time action plan is based on how long transit time is, and it features 4 synergistic and helpful PERQUE products: PERQUE Regularity Guard, PERQUE Digestaguard Forté 10, PERQUE Endura Pack Guard, PERQUE Potent C Guard. And if we look at the first line, this would be a transit time of more than 96 hours. Here we find indications of profound fiber lack in the diet, so we would recommend PERQUE Regularity Guard 8 scoops per day, PERQUE Digestaguard Forté 14 caps per day, PERQUE Endura Pack Guard 12 caps per day, and the Potent C Guard intake based on individual calibration. So if we have a transit time of more than 96 hours, then we would suggest PERQUE Regularity Guard Fiber, the prebiotics, 8 scoops a day. Each scoop provides 7 grams, so that would be 56 grams from the PERQUE Regularity Guard plus whatever else might be in the diet. That would bring the individual above the 40 grams per day that Dennis Burkitt found was healthy, but below the 100 gram per day that seems to be the healthy range of fiber intake based on Burkitt studies. The next is the PERQUE Digestaguard Forté 10. These are the probiotics. We recommend 14 caps a day to displace pathogens and dysbiotic organisms and repopulate the gut with healthy organisms. For PERQUE Endura Pack Guard, we recommend 3 caps on rising, mid-morning, mid-afternoon, and before bed, and the PERQUE Potent C Guard based on calibration. If we look at the second line below the titles, we see if you have a transit time of 72 to 96 hours, we would recommend PERQUE Regularity Guard 7 scoops a day, PERQUE Digestaguard Forté 12 caps per day, PERQUE Endura Pack Guard 9 caps per day, and the Ascorbate based on individual calibration. Similarly, if you have a transit time, which you see in the third line of data, 48 to 72 hours, we would suggest 6 scoops per day of Regularity Guard, PERQUE Digestaguard Forté 10 caps per day, PERQUE Endura Pack Guard 9 caps per day, PERQUE Potent C Guard based on calibration. And if the transit time is closer to healthy but still too long, say 36 to 48 hours, I guess that should be 36 to 48 hours, we would recommend 4 scoops a day, 8 caps of the PERQUE Digestaguard Forté, 6 caps of the PERQUE Endura Pack Guard, say 3 on rising and 3 before bed, and the PERQUE Potent C Guard based on calibration. If you have a slightly long transit time, say 18 to 24 hours, there we would recommend 3 scoops of PERQUE Regularity Guard, 6 caps of PERQUE Digestaguard Forté 10, 6 caps of PERQUE Endura Pack Guard, and the Potent C intake based on calibration. If you have a healthy transit time, we would suggest enhancing that healthy transit time with several scoops a day of fiber, PERQUE Regularity Guard prebiotics, at least 3 caps a day of PERQUE Digestaguard Forté 10 to make sure you're getting the healthy organisms to replenish the acidophilus organisms that are feeders but don't multiply in the gut, so we must continuously take in the healthy acidophilus organisms through our consumption, supplementation, or diet, fermented foods. PERQUE Endura Pack Guard, we'd recommend 3 caps a day to facilitate repair and to reduce the chance of erosion or inflammation in the intestines, and use the PERQUE Potent C Guard calibration to determine how much ascorbate the person takes. Now, in the less common situation where a person has a less than 12-hour or short transit time, we would recommend both PERQUE Regularity Guard prebiotics and PERQUE Digestaguard Forté 10 probiotics, 2 scoops per day of PERQUE Regularity Guard, 9 caps per day of PERQUE Digestaguard Forté 10. Here the goal is to improve the available food for the healthy bugs and to increase the number of healthy bugs coming in each day, stimulate repair with 9 caps per day of PERQUE Endura Pack Guard, say on rising, mid-afternoon, and before bed, and working up slowly on the PERQUE Potent C Guard because some of these folks have so much enteropathy or atrophy that they can get a hypermotility syndrome by anything that stimulates their repair. Now let's talk for a moment about fiber. It's the bulk of the diet. It's the part that has been either forgotten or dismissed by most food processing companies, but it's really very important to digestive health. Fiber should be both soluble and insoluble. It should be 80% soluble and 20% insoluble, an 80-20 ratio of soluble to insoluble fiber. Now, soluble fiber dissolves in water to form a gel-like material. This helps lower blood cholesterol by binding sterols and bile acids, and it also helps lower blood sugar levels, which is helpful in many cases. It does not cause blood sugar levels to go below healthy values, however. It will bring down elevated cholesterol and blood sugar, but it will not cause cholesterol or blood sugar to go below healthy levels. Insoluble fiber, however, promotes movement of bulk through the digestive system and increases toxin removal, as well as healthy probiotic growth. So the insoluble fiber helps to bind toxins and get them out of the body. It helps provide bulk, which is important for movement through the digestive tract, and it also provides a stimulus for the growth of healthy probiotic organisms. Now, PERQUE Regularity Guard is our source for multiple native unprocessed fibers. Because we use the native and unprocessed fibers, we have an ideal 80-20 ratio of soluble to insoluble fiber. It is a functional, a tropho-restorative product for healthy transit time, with 12 to 18 hours as the goal. The superscript 0 means hours there, 12 to 18 hours. And with 7 grams of unprocessed and raw fiber in each scoop, it is a unique native fiber blend. You can add it to any beverages that you might be making in a blender. You can add it to soups, and you can take it directly in water if you prefer. Now let's look at probiotics in some detail. And you see 3 arrows coming from the middle oval that says probiotics. If you look to the left, the arrow that points up and to the left, you see normalized intestinal microbiotic composition. In other words, healthier probiotic organisms. If you look at the arrow going up and to the right, it says immunomodulation. And we'll talk more about that in a moment, but probiotics help modulate our immune defense and repair system. And if you look at the arrow pointing down, it's metabolic effects, and so there are impacts on metabolism from probiotics. Now let's look at this in a bit more detail. The arrow going to the upper left from probiotics points us to normalized intestinal microbiota composition, healthy probiotics. And if you follow the arrow straight up, it's for control of IBS, control of irritable bowel syndrome. If you follow the arrow to the left, it's colonization resistance. In other words, suppression of endogenous pathogens such as antibiotic-associated diarrhea or virulent organisms, suppression of pathogenic organisms and displacement of them when we have enough intake of healthy probiotic organisms. And if you follow down from colonization resistance, it's suppression of exogenous pathogens like traveler's diarrhea. And I'm pleased to tell you that over the last several decades that I've been using PERQUE Digestaguard Forté, and more recently the PERQUE Regularity Guard, that I have never had traveler's diarrhea, even though many of the people that I have traveled with have reported that. And I believe it's because I continuously replenish my probiotic intestinal flora, and I wish them well to do me well. If you look at probiotics and the arrow pointing down for metabolic effects, let's first look to the left. And probiotics help improve the supply of SCFA, short-chain fatty acids, and vitamins, B vitamins like folate, to the colonic epithelium. Now, short-chain fatty acids are an energy source for the colon epithelium. Vitamins are really important in metabolism, so this seems like a very valuable thing that probiotics do, influencing metabolism. If you go down from metabolic effects, you see an arrow pointing slightly to the left that says lower level of toxigenic, mutagenic reactions in the gut. This lowers the risk of cancer transformation. And then the arrow points back to reduction in risk factors for colon cancer, both because of lower levels of toxigenic, mutagenic, what I call bad matter, toxic matter, the bad stuff, as well as an enhancement of the good stuff, the short-chain fatty acids and nutrients, because of the metabolic effects of the probiotics. And if you look at the arrow going to the right and slightly up for metabolic effects, it talks about bile salt deconjugation and secretion and lower serum cholesterol. This is healthy and fortunate. And if you see the arrow pointing to the right and down, it talks about lactose hydrolysis and improved lactose tolerance. Now, many people believe that as you age, a certain number of people will lose the enzyme that metabolizes lactose and become lactose intolerant. That is statistically true, but it's true because these people have an impaired metabolic energetic system in their intestines. They have shifted their intestines to survival mode rather than elective protective mode. And in survival mode, we don't produce anything that's other than required for survival. And it turns out you can survive without taking in milk or milk sugar. And so lactase is an elective protective enzyme, only produced when we have healthy energetics in our metabolism. And when our metabolism is sluggish or impaired, when the energetics of the ATP production are reduced, we will then lose the elective protective suggestions like lactose hydrolysis in regard to lactose tolerance or intolerance. So probiotics have to do with many different things in our body. Normalizing intestinal composition of the organisms, immune modulation, so our immune defense and repair system is strengthened and we have less risk of inflammatory bowel disease, less risk of food allergy symptoms in infants or in adults, and a strengthened innate immunity, the first responder immune system that I've done a separate webinar on and that you're welcome to review. So probiotics improve the composition of the bugs, they improve the immune defense and repair system, and they support metabolism in constructive ways. We have produced PERQUE Digestaguard Forté 10. Those of you who have been with us for many years know that when we can improve a product, we do. We now have 10 viable, alive organisms in our PERQUE Digestaguard Forté 10. And this healthy flora leads to healthier digestion, probiotic balance that promotes health, and these 10 more active strains are synergistic with each other. They help implant and protect, and also, most importantly, crowd out pathogens. So the best way that I know of to reduce pathogen risk or to remove pathogens from the body is to flood the body with healthy probiotics, but also remember to include ascorbate at calibration levels, fiber, such as the PERQUE Regularity Guard, and the energy source for the gut to repair itself, the PERQUE Recycled Glutamine, the PERQUE Endura Pack. So PERQUE Digestaguard Forté 10 is our suggestion to replenish 10 to 20 billion organisms daily for healthy people and 20 to 40 plus billion organisms per day for people under stress, maldigestion, or toxin exposure, all too common in society today. We want a mixed flora so that we have human active and hardy organisms. We have multiple acidophili, multiple bifidobacteriae, multiple strep thermophilus organisms in there so that you're able to get the full family of needed organisms. Now, PERQUE freeze dries, that lyophilizes the organisms at peak activity. So the organisms are grown in log phase, they're doubling each time, and when they reach peak activity, but before they reach plateau or cannibalization phase, which is where most probiotics are harvested, before it reaches that plateau, they're harvested and quickly lyophilized or freeze-dried. This means there's no need for enteric coating. And in our experience, enteric coating dilutes the number of organisms available and can reduce their biofunctionality. So we much prefer these freeze-dried or lyophilized at peak activity organisms. We keep them ultra-cold during our storage of them, ship them cold so that they're stable for at least a month at room temperature and for 6 or more months in the refrigerator. Now, I said that we'd say a bit more about PERQUE Endura Pack Guard. This is recycled glutamine using pyridoxal alpha-ketoglutarate pack. It is a safer repair and energy using recycled glutamine. It is patented, and it's patented because it energizes and enhances repair as well as digestion. On the left part of this slide, you see the bottle and the capsules of glutamine and pack together, a recycled formula that's unique to PERQUE and that keeps you in the physiologic range even as you get the benefit of enhanced repair from glutamine and from raising glutathione in the cell. On the right, you see the mucosal lining of a reasonably healthy animal. You see how irregular that is, indicating lots of surface area for the volume. And indeed, a healthy person will have a surface area of their digestive tract about the size of a tennis court. Pretty big when you lay it all out. A person with enteropathy, by contrast, might have only the area of the service part, maybe a fifth of the whole tennis court. So it's possible to lose 4/5 of your digestive lining or surface area before the body shows much sign of wear and tear or even of enteropathy, which is atrophy of the digestive system. We do want to encourage you to try PERQUE Endura Pack Guard and PERQUE Regularity Guard. And our special for the month of June is buy 5, get 1 free, or buy 10, get 2 free. Both PERQUE Endura Pack Guard and PERQUE Regularity Guard. You're welcome to call our client services or email our client services. The toll-free number is 800-525-7372 for more information. Now, we have had the privilege over the years of rethinking the antioxidant recycling network. This means ascorbates are the key to clinical success. When we have the amount of ascorbate based on calibration, that helps everything else go better because the antioxidants are recycled and the oxidative stressor is quenched. Antioxidants prevent oxidative damage. We have put together a monograph, a 64-page booklet called The Joy of Food, the Alkaline Way Guide. We recommend that to you. It's available both electronically and in physical hard copy. We're happy to sell that to you in bulk for you to use with your individual clients. We do recommend being personalized and individualized in care, and this means calibrating the ascorbate needs, because ascorbate sets the redox potential, the electrical potential of the cell, and it enhances and protects glutathione. So Altenmeister and others showed years ago, and we have confirmed that if you want to raise glutathione, the best way, the most effective way, is to have ascorbate based on ascorbate calibration. And when you have enough ascorbate, this helps recycle the glutathione, it helps enhance glutathione synthetase, and it helps protect the glutathione from depletion in the body. So rethinking the antioxidant recycling network has been rewarding, and this is reflected clinically in The Joy of Food, the Alkaline Way. Here you see results from individuals who have done ascorbate calibrations. On the far left, you see a fairly narrow, bright yellow zone. These are individuals who calibrate on less than 4 grams. Then you see the people who calibrate on 5 to 10 grams. They're reasonably healthy, but not super healthy. Then you have a fairly large group, about 80% of the ambulatory population will take from 5 to 130 grams to calibrate. And then you have the individuals who require more than 130 grams. We're not talking about milligrams, but grams here. So 4,000 milligrams or less for healthy people, 5,000 to 10,000 milligrams for reasonably healthy people, 10,000 to 130,000 milligrams to calibrate for chronically ill people, and people with multiple chronic diseases may need over 130 grams, indicating a very short half-life or a very rapid consumption of ascorbate. Indeed, people in the far right red zone, they have a 30-minute half-life, a 30-minute lifespan, which means they have so much oxidative stress that within a half an hour, half of their ascorbate is used up, and these are the people who need very substantial amounts to reach the same cellular or tissue level. And on the other side, the far left, you see that yellow spike for the healthy people, less than 4 grams to calibrate, and a healthy person might have a 30-day half-life, that is, half of their ascorbate would be used up in a month rather than used up in half an hour. No other substance in biology has a wider difference in half-life or consumption rate, and that's part of why ascorbate calibration is at the central point in our understanding of antioxidants and how to protect the body from oxidative stress and damage, but also how to provide for each individual the amount of ascorbate that they need. PERQUE Potent C-Guard is what we recommend to do the calibration. This is 100% L-ascorbate, fully buffered and fully reduced. It strengthens, repairs, and energizes the immune system, the neurochemical functions of the body. It enhances hormone balance. It enhances antioxidant stress protection. And of course, it's antigen-free, as are all PERQUE products. So we recommend using the PERQUE Potent C-Guard powder to do the ascorbate calibration. And to review briefly how we do this calibration, to find out for each individual how much ascorbate or vitamin C they need, we recommend the ascorbate calibration C-flush protocol. On the bottom of the slide, you see where on the website you can access the full protocol, which we highly recommend. But by example, let's look on the left. A healthy person might take a half a teaspoon, which is 1.5 grams every 15 minutes, and within typically an hour at about 6 grams or less, they will calibrate, they will flush out. For people who are moderately ill, it may take a teaspoon, that is 3 grams every 15 minutes, with 12 grams an hour. Within an hour or two, moderately ill people will usually calibrate. But for people who are chronically ill, who may have a 30-minute rather than 30-day half-life, we recommend 2 to 4 teaspoons, that's 6 to 12 grams, every 15 minutes, and at a consumption of 24 to 48 grams an hour, within 2 hours you would have eaten, or drunk actually, 48 to 96 grams, and within 2 to 3 hours, most people at that level will flush. If you use that higher amount to do the calibration, please read the protocol so that as you get near the flush point, you don't overshoot. That is, you step down the amounts per dose when you feel full and as if you're near to the evacuation point, and that gives you a more precise ascorbate calibration with less chance of an after whoosh. In regard to comprehensive digestive stool analysis, there are 3 reasons why we might like to look at this, and we'll talk in more detail on another webinar. But digestion, both are there bad bugs, pathogens, are there good bugs, probiotics, and what are they? We might want to look at markers of digestion, so for example, fat assimilation and digestion. We might look for evidence of nutrients and how well they're being absorbed, and we might look at the colonic microbiological beneficial bacteria, but also potentially harmful bacteria, yeasts, and fungi that might be present. So if the transit time is long, if the calibration requires more ascorbate, if you find evidence of underlying digestive disorders, then we would suggest a comprehensive digestive stool analysis. The previous webinar was on first AM urine pH, or measuring the risk of metabolic acidosis after rest. On the top of this slide, you see a reminder that the first morning urine pH after rest should be in the healthy repair restore zone, 6.5 to 7.5. If it's less than 6.5, it suggests excess acid that will corrode or wear you out. And if it's consistently above 7.5, it suggests catabolic illness, where the body is tearing itself down. and we would want to correct that. On the bottom of this slide, you see a picture of the strips that we recommend, the high sensitivity 5.5 to 8 pH range paper. You look at fresh urine, either dipped in, the strip dipped in it, or urinating directly on the strip, whichever is preferred. And you compare the color of the strip after it's wet with the urine freshly with this range. You want to be in the green zone. You don't want to be in the sandy acidic zone. You don't want to be in the blue catabolic or too alkaline zone. So we recommend first AM urine pH assessments, pennies a day test for metabolic acidosis risk, a very important modulator or amplifier of chronic disease. We mentioned earlier about the Joy of Food, the Alkaline Way Guide, and in particular we commend to you page 14, a chart. It's also available alone on the web. The way the chart is structured, the more alkaline foods are represented towards the left, the more acidic forming foods to the right. This is a generation after acid ash residue. This looks at the full functionality of the food and allows you then to judge what you take in. For repair, we suggest that 80% of what's on your plate, 80% of the volume that you eat, should be from the left side of this chart, and you can have condiments from the right. And if you're healthy, we would suggest 60% of what you eat should be more alkaline forming so that you can manage the excess acid produced by metabolism. Indeed, you may remember that animals, of which we are animals, are acidic in function, but they're alkaline in design. We're designed to function in a slightly alkaline state, which means more buffering minerals than acid protons produced. The buffering minerals have to be taken in. We can't make those in our body. They have to be taken in from the digestive tract. And we want to have enough of these buffering minerals coming in through the food and supplements to neutralize the extra acids produced by metabolism that can give way to metabolic acidosis. At this point, I'd like to share with you two cases that exemplify what we can do here. The first is about glutamine neurotoxicity reversed. This is a woman, JC is her initials. She's 49 with myriad digestive complaints. She had previously been recommended 12 grams of free glutamine powder daily. This minimally reduced her discomfort, but it created a, quote, weird buzzing sensation in my head. The PERQUE Integrative Health Plan included PERQUE Endura PackGuard, PERQUE Digestaguard Forté 10, and the first morning urine pH to be maintained between 6.5 and 7.5 with a combination of diet plus PERQUE Mag Plus Guard and choline citrate if and as needed. The clinical outcome in Jace's situation is that the buzzing stopped as soon as the glutamine product was switched. And 2 years later, the digestive system is functioning well and JC feels great. This is impressive, and it illustrates an important point, which is that PERQUE products always work within and support physiology. Because we are uniquely able, through our patented system, to recycle glutamine on average 10 times, we can give 1.5 grams of glutamine and some pyridoxal alpha-ketoglutarate packed with that at the same time, and have the same physiologic function as if we had given 15 grams of free glutamine. And if we give, for example, 6 grams of PERQUE Endura PackGuard, that's equivalent after recycling to 60 grams of free glutamine. So we can get the benefit of glutamine without going to pharmacology, rather staying within physiology and using PERQUE Endura PackGuard. Another case, this has to do with relief from IBS, or irritable bowel syndrome. PC was a 60-year-old woman with IBS, poor memory, fatigue, and muscle aches. She had previously been recommended and taken Prilosec, Celexa, and Allegra without much relief. The PERQUE Integrative Health Alkaline Way Plan was the LRA by ELISA Act delayed allergy tests and substituting for the items found reactive on that test. PERQUE LifeGuard, PERQUE Endura PackGuard, PERQUE Digestaguard Forté 10, and PERQUE Regularity Guard, along with PERQUE Mag Plus Guard and choline citrate to maintain a first morning urine pH in the 6.5 to 7.5 range. The outcome after 5 months: no digestive complaints, sleeps better, minimal fatigue, aches, and pains, and quote, "I haven't felt this good in 5 years." Now, hopefully, as we continue to work with this person, they'll continue to feel better and better. And this is an example of how the approach can be used with an individual client, benefiting from the science we have pioneered and put in your hands as a set of tools in a toolkit. I would like to review briefly the Alkaline Way to Sustainable Health. This will be 2 slides, a total of 8 components. The first is to calibrate ascorbate. We believe it's essential to shift the antioxidants to robust status and away from antioxidant deficiency due to oxidative damage. The second point is to stay hydrated. And there's a palm skin pinch relax test. You can take the skin on the back of the palm, gently pinch it and relax, and it should go flat before you can say 1/1000. If there's any sluggishness to its going flat, we suggest an 8 to 12 ounce glass of water and a repeat of the test in as soon as a half an hour. Staying hydrated and having enough antioxidant ascorbate are the 2 most important success factors of the Alkaline Way. The third is magnesium. I have a colleague who wrote a book called First of All, Do No Harm, Second of All, Think of Magnesium, because the myriad benefits that magnesium can provide. So magnesium and other minerals to keep the first AM urine in a healthier 6.5 to 7.5 pH range. The fourth component of the Alkaline Way to Sustainable Health are sufficient prebiotics and probiotics to replenish intestinal health, and this is based on the transit time test and the guide that we reviewed. If the transit time is longer or shorter than healthy, how would you modulate the PERQUE prebiotic, the Regularity guard, the probiotic, the Digestaguard, the recycled glutamine, the Endura pack, and the PERQUE potency ascorbate itself. The next aspect of the Alkaline Way is to eat in harmony with your nature and lifestyle. We recommend locally grown, vine-ripened, organic, or biodynamic sources for the food, and we also recommend foods that you're immunologically compatible with, and that's why we developed the LRA by ELISA Act test, a subject for other webinars. We also recommend restorative sleep. We think that sufficient restorative sleep is a way of balancing out the body and making it a priority, not compromising on restorative sleep, we think is important. Not everyone needs the same amount of sleep, but you know whether you're rested after getting up from sleep, and that's a good indication of whether you have enough restorative sleep. If restorative sleep is an issue, we recommend the salt and soda bath. That's Epsom salts and baking soda, a half to 1 cup of each in a warm tub of water. We recommend abdominal breathing. We recommend active meditation. And these are all parts that you can access through our website or through other presentations we have given. 7, we suggest working muscles and relaxing in some balanced proportion. So we recommend being physically active, and we recommend being proactively relaxing. That is, stretch, active meditation, visualization, and just gentle motion, so that when you work the muscles, you enhance them, but when you relax the muscles, you help repair them. And finally, do your best and appreciate yourself. We have found ourselves over the years that you don't have to be perfect. I can tell you from experience I'm not perfect. But you do have to be consistent. You do have to apply what you know to the best of your ability. And then we suggest taking a moment to appreciate yourself for what you have done to stimulate your human healing responses.